Had to add myself. There we go, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Friday, TGIF. We are here. We are ready. My camera's falling a little bit, but hey, the Mets, look at this. This game not out of the water yet. It's surprising it's gotten this close, 19-9 here with Stanek coming into the game with a runner on third. But let's talk about a lot because we have a lot to talk about tonight. Hope everybody's doing well. This game not over yet, clearly, but it's about to be surprising. Wanted to get ahead of it a little bit just to talk a little bit as we get some people trickling in. But hope everybody's doing well. Again, Friday night, Jonah Tong. That is the name of this live, and for good reason. He was good tonight. He wasn't great, right? I'm not going to overhype Jonah Tong just yet, but we'll do a lot of praising on his behalf because he was very good. And I don't want to undersell what we're seeing from Jonah Tong because the future is very bright, certainly very bright. You got a lot of offense. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. Don't worry. But Jonah Tong tonight, he just got enough through this game to get a win. And that was, up in question at one point because he was pushing 90 pitches at the end of this fifth inning. And, there was a moment when you were thinking he was at 89 pitches. You had Hefner come out, talk to him, and then you finally got the understanding like they're going to let him finish this inning. And that's really what they did at the end. And Jonah Tong in line for his first big league win. I mean, that is just really good to say. And, this game's about to be finished up. We'll keep you tabs on it, of course. 1-2 count, now 2-2. Stanek on the mound, that's a thing of its own. But Jonah Tong, I mean, he was spectacular. And I do want to hear from you guys throughout the night. Ray is currently at the game. So we're going to hear from Ray, of course. Swing and a miss, strike three, and the ball game is officially over. Jonah Tong officially gets his first win in the orange and blue. You love to see it. The offense showed up, no doubt about it. They had the most runs in Mets history through 2 innings. They had 12 runs scored. Soto with his 33rd home run of the year. Brandon Nimmo had 2 home runs tonight. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Pete Alonso, doing his thing, continuing to add to the party. You love to see it. And then Luis Torrens for good measure at the end of the game. Of course, how could we forget? Jonah Tong running out on the field as we speak, about to do the kick celebration right there in no man's land, right behind the pitcher's mound where he took shot today. Gets a lot of high fives, a lot of smiles. Jonah Tong, well deserving. And the stuff played up today. We'll look into the advanced stats in a couple minutes as well. First glances, right? You see his family right there. You love to see it. They were interviewing his parents before. Karen, and I forget his father's name. It's escaping me. Maybe one of you guys know. But love to see that. And the parents, invested. They talked about throughout the COVID months when, where he's from in Ontario, Canada, they were under serious restrictions with the coronavirus around 2020. So that was something, a hurdle he clearly had to climb. They brought out a mound. He brought it across the street. He was working out in the garage. And certainly the work paid off for Jonah Tong. So 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs today. One of them were earned, and he had no walks, zero. Good old Goose Gossage with 6 strikeouts. You love to see that. Similar with Nolan McLean, right? Those 4 walks that he had came in his big league debut. That is a great sign. You don't want to add extra base runners. I don't need to tell you guys this, the baseball fans at home, but that's a really good sign from these young Mets players. And Steve Gelb's interviewing Jonah Tong right now. I'm not sure if you guys could hear it. We'll see. We'll do a little testing here. And the Gatorade, you love it. Well, not sure if you guys could hear that. We were trying that out. I'm not sure, but Jonah Tong had to shake some of the water out of his ear and stuff like that. Just saying happy that they got the win. And all the work that he's put in, right? I mean, you can't really understate that. He's built like a truck. I mean, you see the lower body. It really speaks to one pitcher. You need the thunder thighs. We all know that. And Jonah Tong really brings the heat. I mean, his fastball was playing up tonight. You love to see that. And, it's not always about the fastball. I think we all understand that in the game, but he has other pitches too, which play up. The curveball got his first major league strikeout on the good old Uncle Charlie 12-6. That's great. I mean, the fact that he has one of those, it's not really a refined pitch for like yet for Tong where he can really throw it a lot, but he got a couple of those in there tonight. So that was great to see. Um, I really think at the end of the day, we are seeing the beginning. And we've talked about this a couple times, the beginning of a really good start in terms of the Mets, in terms of where they're at right now in pitching. And you can't speak highly enough about Nolan McLean. We know what he's done. He's kind of in his own category at this point. Jonah Tong, I mean, he was right there, 1A, 1B. I'm really impressed, and I think a lot of us are tonight because he handled this game like a professional, even though he's in the body of a little kid. I mean, there was multiple points throughout this game, showed it on the broadcast, where he's out there waiting to get back on the mound. He's not sitting in the dugout like most guys are, and he really, he showed what his stuff was tonight. Now, I just got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not easy to be pitching in the big leagues. None of us could do it. That's why we're sitting here on a Friday night, not at Citi Field. But you guys get the point. I mean, Jonah Tong really looked good tonight, and got to give him credit. I mean, it's not easy. That's my bottom line on that. It's not easy. So good for him. We'll get to hear from you guys, of course. I'm sorry the audio wasn't working before. I thought it could play out of my computer into the microphone, but clearly it couldn't. But great stuff there from Steve Gelbs getting the interview and getting doused in Gatorade. That's usually a good sign, and we've seen that a couple times over these post games for the Mets, where yeah, the Gatorade shower is a good thing. That's never a sign of a bad thing for the Mets. So you love to see it. The offense showed up today, gave Tong, I mean, a 12 spot to work with. Come on. I mean, you could really just sit back and take your foot off the gas. And I think a lot of us kind of felt a sense of, the anxiety goes away. And it's good. It really is. Because if you're a pitcher like that, clearly high on adrenaline today. I mean, you could see it with Tong. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's an emotional player. And that's good. I don't think that's a bad thing. But he really, got some good run support today. Brandon Nimmo, 2 home runs. I mean, this guy is on a heater for the Mets, and it's gone back for a couple weeks now, but it's really started to be in the past week or so where Brandon Nimmo's really been going to right field. He's been getting a lot of singles too, and it's just I'm really happy for him because even the walk off the other night, Brandon Nimmo's been putting in the work, and he really doesn't get a lot of credit most of the time, and I'll leave that for what it is. But the Mets officially 5 games up on the Cincinnati Reds. They lost tonight. The Padres, I believe, are currently playing. They're 2.5 up. And then you still have the Cubs, so you're chasing in that first wild card spot if you're the Mets. But great stuff all around. I mean, the Reds losing to the Cardinals tonight. You do have the Padres and the Twins going at it, top 7. The Padres are losing 7-2. So odds are the Mets do gain a game on that second wild card team in San Diego. I think that's where our sights should be at this point. Cincinnati 5 games back. I'm not really concerned about Cincinnati at this point. If you want the honest truth, I really haven't been concerned about Cincinnati most of the year. But if you could tell me that we could sneak into the second wild card spot, and dare I say the first, you're cooking with grease. And this Mets team might be on fire at that point. And you do play San Diego coming up. It's one of the last series of the year. I believe the second to last series before they end up in Miami to finish the year. So that's going to be an interesting series. I know a lot of people saying, oh, you can't count out the division, but a lot of people also saying this division has been counted out. I'm starting to fall into that camp. We did see last night Kyle Schwarber had 4 home runs, the third player this year to hit 4 home runs behind Nick Kurtz and Eugenio Suarez, or third player, excuse me. So, another win tonight for the Phillies. They just, I get the Mets may have their number and the tiebreaker and all that stuff. That's really good, but they're on a different level as well. And not in terms of they're better than the Mets, but they're just, as they move up, the Mets move up. As they move up, it's really tough to close that gap. But you do have 4 games remaining. I can't count out anything right now, especially as we get into September, starting in the next couple days. And it's crazy, right? Final weekend of summer, Labor Day weekend. The traffic was probably brutal out there today for anyone who was driving. But they're showing the home runs. Soto to lead it off. You had Pete in the second inning making it 7-0. And Tong tonight, too, did bounce back certain instances. That fifth inning, ending it when it was 12-4, 12-1, excuse me. It just is a sign of, maybe a makeup call or two from the umpire. I think we saw a couple of those tonight on the inner half, and then the final one at the knees. But I'm not going to complain about that. I don't think any of us are. And Jonah Tong certainly isn't either. So really good stuff all around. 19-9 win for the Mets. The offense exploded. And it's really all about the young pitchers at the end of the day. That's why I really wanted to do this live. I said to Ray, hey, let me open tonight. And we do it. There's a chance we could get Ray checking in. I know a lot of you guys probably want to hear from him. But, it's really good to see the youth. And I think a lot of us feel that way because we haven't felt this way since 2015. I'm old enough to remember that. Don't worry. I'm not old enough to remember a lot of Mets history, but definitely 2015. Even mid 2010s, 2010 on. But it really speaks to where we're at, full circle moment 10 years later. And dare I say, win the division 10 years later. But that's feels out of reach, as we said. But you never know. Can't count anything out. But DeGrom, Harvey, Syndergaard, Wheeler, Matz. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. I've tweeted about it for you guys that follow me out there. I mean, I see a lot of similarities in a lot of these pitchers. Jonah Tong, you could say he's a Jacob deGrom type player. You could say he's a Matt Harvey. Nolan McLean, same thing. Jonah Tong. I mean, Jacob deGrom or Matt Harvey. So it's kind of that similar stuff. And, Brandon Sproat in the equation, I'm not going to count him out just yet. I do think there's a path for him, especially, around September 1st as we're getting to, and hopefully we get to see Brandon Sproat. That would be great for this Mets team. Another, jolt of electricity at Citi Field. That's all the fans want to see at the end of the day is youth. They want to know that, hey, we have pitchers that we can trust when we put them out on the mound. That's not a shot at a guy like Kodai Senga and Sean Manaea, but it is tough to trust them most nights. It's tough to trust a Clay Holmes. So, David Peterson going tomorrow. I'll be at Citi Field with my family tomorrow. Very excited, sitting out there in left center field. I'm excited to see David Peterson tomorrow, and also excited to get the Lindor bobblehead. But I will be giving one away too, so make sure to go check that out. But it's going to be a great weekend, and I think this was a great start to the weekend for the Mets. We did see it. This series, for Miami. Yesterday was brutal. I did not go on the live last night. I just kind of was tired and kind of fell asleep, but that's neither here nor there. But also, it's just it's a loss, right? Nobody likes to bask in the losses, and the wins are where it's at. You love to be there for the wins, and of course, we've been there in the low of the lows. We've seen this season. The ups and the downs. I mean, getting swept by the Pirates, losing series to the Nationals. I could go on, but it's good to be here for the good times and appreciate the good times because you don't know if they're always going to be lasting. That's the reality. So, it's a good thing to see. And really high praise for Jonah Tong, right? I think tonight, it's just one of those things where you take a step back and again, you just realize that he's going to be a Met for a while and he's under control, but don't even think about that at this point. Think about the future, right? And the arm slot and the deception and the delivery. They were breaking down his whole pitching motion tonight. They're doing it on the post game as well. Straight over the top, Tin Lincecum style. That's who he grew up idolizing and wanting to pitch like since he was around 10 years old. So you could definitely see the similarities. And it is a little weird how his front foot lands a little closed. They did mention that. Ron Darling was kind of breaking that down. It does put pressure on his calf, maybe the inside of his knee as well. But I'm not worried because, again, going back to the point before, this guy's put in the work. He's done his bench presses. He's done his squats, most importantly, to make sure that leg strength is where it needs to be. And I'm not worried. Again, like having a sense of confidence when guys go out on the mound. When the Mets dealt their two aces, right? You could say there's two new aces and Tong and McLean coming up. But guys like Matt Harvey, guys like Max Scherzer wore the same number as Jonah Tong too. So a couple of those jerseys, the little duct tape over it. But Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, you had a sense, at least from my perspective, right? Everybody's different. I had a sense of confidence when Verlander took the mound as opposed to Scherzer. And I always liked that confidence when Verlander took the mound because you could trust the guy. Scherzer was a little bit, wonky, and the delivery and just it never really felt right. And we kind of saw that in the postseason too. But you want that sense of confidence. That's a big thing. And for Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean, I think I speak for all Mets fans here. We feel confident when they take them out. And that is very, very important to see. So you love to see that. You really, really do for the Mets. And Mendy speaking right now, he's just, praising Jonah Tong, what he's done tonight. 97 pitches, 63 of them for strikes. It's just a good game. At the bottom line, it's just a really good game for the Mets. So we'll see if Ray checks in. I do want to hear from you guys tonight. A lot of comments, a lot of people getting excited over this game. How could you not? Going first, Morgan. Game not over yet. Yeah, well, the game is over now. I did start this live a little early, but what a bizarre game. Absolutely, right? Up and down. You had multiple moments. I mean, that fifth inning, you were sitting there saying, again, is this guy going to be able to get his first major league win? Francisco Lindor, Brett Beatty, easy, 2-ball to second base. You're thinking, all right, 4-6-3 double play. Let's get out of the inning. And Lindor with a rare drop on a transfer. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. It's just the reality. So I don't really have any explanation. Same thing with Pete. That ball that kind of ate him up to his left a little bit. It is what it is. That's Ron Darling said those guys kind of are taught that nowadays, but he didn't like that. I didn't like that either. So if Keith was in the booth, maybe different story. I'm sure he would have had a lot more to break down, but crazy, right? Just crazy. Awesome game. Why embarrass Terens like that? If Stanek's not here, up 14 runs, I don't know why he's still here. It's a good point. I proposed something today, right? Guys, I'm sure you saw the news with the Red Sox getting rid of Walker Buehler. He was in the pen. His numbers were not great for the Red Sox, and he was fine with being in the pen. I think a lot of people thought he didn't want to be in the pen. He just wants to help his team win at the end of the day, and most people see him as a starter. I understand that, but if he wants to recoup some value before he hits free agency again, find himself in a pen down the stretch on a competitor. I think that's a good way to rebuild some value. It was funny, too. They said on the broadcast, two final people on the field in the batter's box and on the mound in the World Series last year, Alex Verdugo and Walker Buehler on the mound. Think about that. Now both of them kind of on the street looking for teams. But unlike Verdugo, pretty sure Buehler is going to be scooped up very soon because he was released before September 1st. There he can be on a postseason roster. So that's important to note. But something interesting, right? Stanek, yeah, I don't really get the appeal, but it is what it is. He was okay tonight. Defense didn't help him at all. Offense did. Nice welcome to the majors. Here's 9 runs in 2 innings. Yeah, 9 runs in 2 innings. He also had 12 runs in 2 innings. So the 10 runs that they got through the 2 innings, that goes back to 2013 against the Twins, the last time that happened. That was a snow game. John Neese on the mound. The Mets just kind of torched the Twins in Minnesota that game. But tonight, I mean, unprecedented territory. This was the most runs again that the Mets have scored through 2 innings, 12 runs. That's if that doesn't speak to where this offense currently is, I don't know what does. And I understand they're playing Miami. I get it. It's like the Yankees, making the Nationals throw 77 pitches in the 3rd inning a couple days ago, putting up 11 runs and really killing them. I get it, right? Like, no one's going to sit here and say these are great teams. You can make the argument the Nationals minor league team to an extent. The Marlins a little bit better. I think we all agree. But, it's still not much better. Excuse me, guys. Still not much better Dying out here. Dying out here. Not sick, just a little need some water. Would have been 60 pitches without the 5 errors and the 4 unearned runs. Yeah, I hear you. I know. It's it's tough, right? It really is. It could have been cruising along, but there's always bumps in the road. What's a Mets win without a little bit of agita, right? We love to see it. Tong really did well given the 27-minute delay between first and second. Yes, that's a great point, Andre. And another 25-minute delay where the Mets were putting up 12 runs. To keep focus and concentration was very impressive. Yeah, that's the thing, right, about these guys, right? McLean and Tong. Mental. These guys very, very good mentally. They don't fold under pressure. They just get right back on the mound. McLean a little bit less of the high and low in terms of their emotionality as opposed to Tong. But nevertheless, I mean, both of them are gamers. Both of them go out there and they do their thing. So you can't really hate it from a Mets perspective. Great debut for Tong and awesome to see, Daniel Cap says. Yeah, right? Great debut. It wasn't the best debut, right? He did get a little bit of help on the offense, but overall, very solid. I'm not going to take away from what Jonah Tong did tonight. And I hope, not many of us would. He's a gamer for sure. Bring in Tong and the fish get fried. Yes, sir, that Ford. Yes, sir. Might have to go and have some salmon tomorrow night. Get my protein up. That's where we're at right now. Fried fish. That's probably the name of the game right now. This series back even between the Mets and the Marlins at 1 apiece. Still have 2 games remaining, but we'll see how the rest of this series goes. You hope to take the next 2. That would be ideal for sure. Hey there. Glad for JT. Yeah, Jonah Tong, man. He can't say enough. Can't say enough. Let's go, says D. Yes, sir. Ray is currently at the game right now. So he's probably just getting out of there. It's fireworks night at Citi Field. So as we speak, the fireworks going off over there in Queens. Always a great night. Been to a couple firework Fridays in my time. Always a lot of fun. But, you can get out of there too and have some people remaining in the ballpark. I know Ray probably rushing to get home, potentially get on the live. We'll see if he's checking in. But if not, I got you guys covered for at least a couple more minutes ahead. No doubt about it. Tong 1.80 ERA. Yes, Daniel. Yeah, it's been unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. There's the bath. I don't know what that means, but I'll take your word for it. I've seen enough McLean, Peterson, Tong. I assume you're talking about a playoff rotation, right? And this is a good point to bring up. You got to think about that, right? Especially at this point. What are the 3 best Met pitchers? And I say 3 because they're going to the wild card. I feel confident in saying that. Please don't Sal Licata me and clip this up and say, oh, Dan, you were wrong. I think they will be a wild card team, whether it's the second, potentially the first, likely the third, but potentially the second. You're thinking about 3 starters. Ray and I have talked about this a lot of nights. Right now, you're right. I do think at this point, it's still so early with a Tong. He's pitched 1 game, 5 innings in the major leagues. McLean, you have 3 outings under his belt. So we have more of a sample size to go off of. And I don't think anyone's going to push back on McLean being a playoff rotation. Peterson, 100% will be in that playoff rotation. I think it comes down to Senga and Manaea. I do. And I don't know if Tong, unless he has an unbelievable September and just continues to stack up wins, strikeouts, looks great, it's a tough sell for me to put him in the rotation right now. But again, anything can change. Anything can change. But definitely McLean, definitely Peterson. And I do think it does come down to Senga or Manaea, but that remains to be seen. It really does. I did want to quickly share something too. We'll go into the advanced stats and then I'll bring you guys up because it's a couple interesting things going on here, right? And a lot of comments, guys. Appreciate the love as always. Make sure to like and subscribe. Brought to you by BetUS, of course. TJ Stats does a great job in breaking down kind of, the advanced stuff, things that people kind of say, oh, what are we talking about here? This is what we're talking about here. Jonah Tong tonight was unbelievable. He had 5 innings pitched, 23 plate appearances. We'll go to the simple stuff first. 1 earned, 6 and 6 in terms of hits and strikeouts. No walks. That's the number one thing. I mean, the Mets get a win. They get 5 innings out of their first pitcher in the major leagues this year. I mean, first start for Jonah Tong in the major leagues this year. And he doesn't allow any walks. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. It always can. But he was really, really good tonight. Not great. I don't want to oversell what we saw, but it was good. And it was really good for Jonah Tong. You see the arm angles, right? That's kind of the amazing thing about him. His fastball plays up. You get a lot of induced vertical break. Talked about it during the live tonight, too, on the broadcast. McLean himself talked about it, right? I mean, this is a pitch similar to Matt Harvey where it's more of an optical illusion than it is reality. But the pitch is on his fastball seemingly riding up in the zone. As it gets closer to the plate, it gets on you quicker, and it has that late deceptive oomph, that late movement, just a little bit up, playing up. It's a lot of backspin, right? So you're thinking it's cutting through the air and really cutting up a little bit. You saw that tonight from Jonah Tong, and it speaks in the numbers too. 21.4 on the IVB for his four seam. That's just crazy. I mean, that is next level stuff. He's really, plus in the stuff department, no doubt. You see it on the arm angle too. I always love to bring this up because it's just crazy to think that a guy still throws over the top. That's what you hear all the time growing up, right? It's like throw over the top, throw over the top. Well, Jonah Tong throws the most over the top you possibly can, to the point where he has to get his own neck out of the way to deliver a pitch. I mean, it's unbelievable. The 22-year-old, he really has a bright future with the New York Mets, no doubt about it. You saw the usage tonight, really diving into some of this stuff. I mean, he threw the four seam the most. He's relying on that changeup, and for good reason. It has a lot of good movement, had a couple broken bats as well, which was great to see. You see about a 10-mile-an-hour difference between the two pitches, his fastball and changeup, and you're getting a lot of horizontal break, 15 and a half inches. That is dastardly, right? That is really, really good. And it's good to see. And a lot of it, too, you see it on the chart here. It's arm side, right? Obviously, the changeup's going to break arm side, but if you get 15 and a half inches of vertical break arm side, that's just nasty. I mean, it really is. So you love to see it. I mean, the curveball is kind of his tertiary pitch at this point, the one he uses the third most. He threw it 13 times. Again, he got that first strikeout in the major leagues on that curveball. It's a good pitch. It still needs to be refined. I'm not sure if he feels totally confident in throwing it in most situations, but when he is, watch out because that's going to be a really good pitch for him. And he threw his slider once tonight. That's a pitch he's been working on. He's talked about it. It's something he wants to continue to work on moving forward, but it wasn't really a factor tonight for him. And in the future, again, development, pitching lab, Hefner, Desi, right? All these guys that work with these pitchers day in and day out, they're going to work on these things and make sure going into next year, maybe he feels more comfortable with that slider. Maybe a guy like McLean who came in throwing two pitches and now he has six. Maybe Tong adds a cutter, right? Maybe he adds a sinker or a two seam. These are things to be excited about for sure. Maybe he adds McLean's sweeper, right? I mean, I don't know if he would because he already throws a slider and a curve. It's kind of that middle ground pitch, but I wouldn't rule it out. In the game of baseball that we have today, I would not rule anything out, especially with the Mets pitching lab. You really can't. You really can't. Four seam graded at a 76 tonight, 67 on the change, 43 on the curve, and then 53 on the one slider that he threw. Not much of a sample size. And then the weighted on base average contact. This is really like just next, I know a lot of people are probably snoozing through this, but 279 on that changeup. Fastball got hit up a little bit, but again, like at the end of the day, he's getting whiffs. He had 7, I believe, tonight whiffs. Yeah, right there. So again, good stuff from Tong. Really, really good start for him in his major league career. And the offense certainly helped. Don't get it twisted, right? Like you did need that offense to get Tong, A, comfortable on the mound pretty quickly, and B, to have a good performance. Because if this was a 1-0 game, might have been a little bit more tense. You could see the emotion on him. He is a tense guy. He's a emotional guy, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you do have to kind of, and he said it before the game too, he gets angry, right? And he said that on MLB too. They had an interview with him. Nothing wrong with being angry. I think a lot of us get angry from time to time, but you do want to, hone in those emotions too. Make sure they don't get the best of you. I say it all the time. One of my favorite quotes, and it might be my own quote, not even sure. Whenever you let emotion win, you lose, right? It's the reality. If you get too high in life, too low in life, you're going to be set for a disappointment and just frustration in the long run. So interesting stuff to think about. Let's get back to these comments. Game's over, blowout. Yes, sir. Took it like a man. Yeah, no, he did. He did. Let's go Mets, says Kai. Yes, checking in. Let's go. You love to see it. You love to see it. McLean and Tong going to win a lot of games for us a long, long time. That's the goal, right? I mean, that's really the goal right now. Just keep stacking wins, keep bringing up the youth, and keep having, energy at Citi Field night in, night out. You love to see it. A packed house tonight. I mean, a lot of good giveaways this week. You had the GKR, Ron Darling, Gary Keith, Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez pins. That was a great giveaway. You had the Pete Alonso 253 shirt tonight. It was a special ticket giveaway. That was good to see. You had the Sesame Street stuff earlier too as well. So there's been a lot of good giveaways, no doubt about it. Fireworks night tonight as well. And then tomorrow you're going to have the Lindor bobblehead. That's going to be really cool. I will be there for that. Really excited to get that bobblehead and give one away to you guys at home as well. So love to see it. Great team win. Good debut for Jonah Tong. No doubt. No doubt. Those Lindor and Alonso errors were brutal. Yeah, they were. And again, it thought in the moment, that fifth inning, it's going to cost him his win. And you got to be better. I mean, last night was brutal too. The errors, you had Nimmo in left field kicking the ball around. It was just a mess last night. That seventh inning was just sloppy. No doubt about it. But definitely tonight they bounced back, and you love to see that. Only 22. That's awesome for the kid. Yep. We got to treat kid like our own. Yeah, I know. I mean, you got to take care of him. You really do. Mets smack Yuri Perez down. Yeah, I mean, was out in the first inning. I mean, he couldn't even get an out up until the point. I believe he got one out before he was pulled. Might have been two. But it was brutal. I mean, Perez was just not good tonight at all. And Mets took advantage. I mean, this team came out humming from the beginning. Soto is 33rd home run of the year. Still projected to hit 40, which is crazy to say. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. A lot of people get on Soto. It's a down year maybe by his standards, but relative to the rest of the league, I mean, he's not having a down year. He is very good. And if this is the lowest Soto's going to be in his career, that's why you signed the guy for $765 million, no doubt. Goomba, the kid's got Saquon legs. Yeah, that's a soft spot in my heart. Well, there'll be time to talk about Big Blue, man. Holy. But, Saquon, always a friend. But, yeah, he definitely has very similar build, no doubt. Saquad, people call him as well. Only concern is pitching mechanics long-term, hurting his neck or ankle. That's a good point. I think the knee, too, puts a lot of pressure. They were saying the calf as well. Again, he's landing like this towards the plate. You kind of want to be landing with your front foot square off towards home. You could be a little bit one way or the other, but he's really kind of closed off. So it is something I'm sure they're looking at, and maybe it's something we look at next year at spring training as he'll break camp. You would hope, but those be the mechanical changes that hopefully he can iron out to keep him on the field long as possible, because that is the goal at the end of the day. Tim Lincecum, they brought it up. I mean, Lincecum would finish and he would pick up the dollar bill as he goes through his motion. A lot more of a heavy follow through as well from Lincecum. Tong kind of, is more of in an athletic position, but he's still kind of fallen off the mound a little bit as well. But again, two flexible players, two very strong players. And again, you just want to keep these guys on the field as long as possible. That's really what it comes down to. Security and safety. Those are the priorities right now. Now let's get Sproat straightened out. Robert, yeah. I mean, not a good outing for him in his first bullpen appearance. Stearns talked about Sproat on the John Heyman, Joel Sherman podcast this past week. And, talked about Sproat and said it was, contrary to popular belief, it was his time to become a bullpen guy in terms of, every pitcher goes through it. And it really wasn't a bullpen outing. He pitched out of the pen behind Austin Warren, but he came in the second inning. I mean, he still threw 70 pitches, still went 6 innings. It was more of a spot start for him, or a cleanup job, if you will, but again, at the end of the day, like Sproat's a starter. I don't think he's really fit for the bullpen, and I think we saw that this past week. But that's really the question. Mets running into a lot of problems and good problems to have where you have a lot of pitchers coming back next year, right? You have a lot of pitchers in this rotation right now. I mean, let's think about it. Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga. That's four right there. You have Nolan McLean. There's five. And now Jonah Tong is six. You're going to run into trouble next year when Montas out for the whole season at Tommy John. That was the news this past week. Sad, but it's just another spot cleared up. You have Christian Scott, definitely someone to consider. Griffin Canning, not sure how everything's going to look next year, but I'd take a flyer and see what happens. You never know. It's interesting to see because then you really run into a problem with Brandon Sproat. You're already at 7, 8, borderline 9 guys. You have McGill coming back as well. Some of these guys are going to go to the pen. I've been calling for Clay Holmes to go to the pen for a while. I think it does feel like the best move. He's making $13 million a year, so it's not like you're really overpaying for a starter. You're paying for an expensive reliever in some sense of the word, but a cheap starter, no doubt. And I get that's why people want to keep him starting. But, I really would have moved Holmes to the pen by now, cleared up a spot, but they still trust him. So we'll see. With Tong now in the rotation, it does apply pressure to a guy like Clay Holmes moving forward. I do want to see Sproat up here in some capacity, and I think that'll be the last piece of the pitching puzzle. Said the other night, Vientos, him getting going is kind of the last piece for this offense, and we saw another home run for him tonight. Was off garbage time pitching. I get that. That's his second of the year, I believe, when it's a position player on the mound, but I'm not going to complain. That's 2 extra home runs for Vientos, but he's swinging a very hot bat, and having him going on the offensive side, that's really good to see for this Mets team. So for the pitching side, seeing Sproat, I think that'll be one of the last pieces of the puzzle. I love what Joe Ross brings to the table. I know a lot of people, who's Joe Ross? I mean, this guy throws 100 and he could be in the pen for this team come the playoffs. But I don't know what the Mets are going to be thinking moving forward, especially with a guy like Sproat. I just have no idea. So I have my own internal thoughts. Maybe there's a trade in the offseason, but I just feel bad for Brandon Sproat because he's been passed up. You had a guy in Jonah Tong made 2 AAA starts, and the Mets said, all right, I'm willing to pull the trigger on this kid and get him up at the big leagues. Nolan McLean flew right past Brandon Sproat in terms of the prospect rankings, right? Go back to last season. Brandon Sproat was leading the way. He was the number 1 guy in the system. Nobody could touch him. I mean, it was at that point where you were saying, all right, I want to see Brandon Sproat eventually. I want to see what the hype's all about. And right now we're sitting in September, and I'm not so sure we're going to see him this year. I mean, I hope, but we have 1 month to go in the season. I mean, you're pushing the limit here. And the minor league season's over September 21st. So that is something to keep in mind as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how they utilize Sproat for sure. And one last thing, I know, look at this, Robert, you get a good question. You go off on a tangent. There was I believe it was CBS. They did a interview. It was CBS Business, CNBC, did an interview with Brandon Sproat before the season, right? They sat down with him, or David Stearns. I keep getting the 2 mixed up. I guess they look alike or whatever. I don't know. But David Stearns was talking about Brandon Sproat, and he said, he's going to be an impact player for this team. Now, I know you can't take GMs at their word. I know they're kind of politicians in the sense where they kind of say one thing and then they maybe believe another. We've seen that with Brian Cashman, Caleb Durbin flipping a player like that for Devin Williams, and Caleb Durbin was being talked up for months. So something definitely to think about for sure. In terms of Brandon Sproat, was David Stearns lying, or does he actually have a plan for Brandon Sproat? But he was kind of sounding like the idea he'd be up by the trade deadline, maybe middle of the season, all-star break. I mean, going into this season, I certainly thought that. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. We'll have a lot of time to talk about this in the offseason, guys. A lot of good conversations. Tong worked out of tough spots. Yes, he did. I mean, I got to give him that credit, right? You had runners on. Believe, again, that 5th inning didn't get easy for him, of course. But, there was moments definitely for him where he had to work out of trouble. And again, you got to give credit. Like, it's not easy being in those situations. 3rd inning too. I mean, you had runners on 3rd and 2nd, worked out of it, was able to get a ground out to Pete, inning over, right? These are times where he bounces back in the fourth inning. You love to see that. But then that fifth inning was really, it was tough. You had runners on third and second, and you end up getting a run across. And in that moment, it was 12-4. But then you bounce back, striking out Liam Hicks with that fastball at the knees. Love to see it. Could have been a makeup call. I'm not going to rule that out completely. But again, Tong battled in and out of trouble tonight. Little Timmy didn't last that long with the same violent windup. Yeah, it's a good point, Goomba. That's a good point. He did win back-to-back Cy Youngs. I'm not going to go off on a limb and say Tong is going to win 2 Cy Youngs. You'd be stupid to say that. But, yeah, I mean, the thing with Tim Lincecum, he smoked some weed. I mean, I'm going to be honest, right? Like, I'm not saying that was his downfall. Clearly wasn't, but not Josh Gordon. We understand the severity here, but maybe guys take their eye off the ball, if you get what I'm saying. And you can't, right? You can't get complacent. I don't think Tong is an issue on and off the field. This guy's eating bananas in the dugout, trying to get his fiber. I mean, he's a kid, right? And I expect the world for him. And he's 1 year younger than me. So it's like, it's crazy to think, it really is crazy, guys. But Tong, yeah, I think, Tim Lincecum was a great pitcher. But to your point, Goomba, he panned out or flared out very quickly. And that's kind of what the Hall of Fame looks at, right? When they think of a Tim Lincecum, or they think even on a greater extent, Jacob deGrom, like the greatest peak we've ever seen. That's what these Hall of Famer voters look at, peak. And for a guy like deGrom, yeah, greatest peak we've ever seen, but then kind of trailed off. I think his case is a little different this year because Jake is just pitching like old Jake. And we could have a whole live talking about that. But that's really the main point there, Goomba, talking about that peak. You're right. He flared out too quickly. Nimmo is on fire. Love to see it, man. A round of applause for Nimmo. It's my mom's birthday today. I got her a nice Nimmo jersey. That's her favorite player as well. You love to see it. You do. And Nimmo's a gamer. This is a guy who goes out there, he posts, and he plays. And even through all the injuries, right? We were seeing him hobble in the postseason last year, plantar fasciitis. You can't tell that that's bothering him this year, right? I mean, you could say he's a little fleet of foot. And a lot of people pointing to that ball that, got in between him and Vientos down the left field line tonight. Nimmo took his eye off the ball because Vientos was right in his grill. I mean, that's not Vientos' ball ever, right? Like, I think we all understand Nimmo should have caught that ball, but a lot of that was because as he's sliding, he's taking his eye off of it because Vientos is 5 feet away. I mean, I get you always want players to go for it no matter what, but Nimmo could have had that ball. But speaking to the bigger point, Nimmo's on fire, but he's not injured this year. I don't think, he has the neck stiffness that popped up, of course. But I don't think he's really ailing this year like he was last year, specifically with the plantar fasciitis, which a lot of people talk about. I understand he has the noodle arm. I get it. It hurts. It sucks. But even sometimes he shows you that, maybe some of that is a fallacy too. Dan, what space will you be in tonight? No idea, Michael. No idea. Goomba, the offense said, here you go, kid. We got you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. The offense picked up Tong. You love to see it. You really do. Crimson Omega, luckily the game was out of hand, but Lindor Alonso can't make those errors. I completely agree. I hate the way that the Mets teach to catch the ball on the side. Yeah, right. Instead of getting in front of it, referring to Pete's error. So, yeah, he's going like this. You should really be out in front and going and getting that ball. I get it's smoked. I get you want to, try to have some sense of getting a glove on it, but Pete has to be better there. Speaking of Pete's defense, it's been better. I think a lot of us kind of have seen that. His throws to second have been a lot more confident and crisp. But, there's still some of those goofs from Pete Alonso where you're just sitting there scratching your head. And it's frustrating because I think a lot of us do see the development in Pete Alonso's defensive game over the past couple seasons. And, it is what it is. Yep, the defensive errors. Pete getting hot, 3 more hits tonight, another home run. You love to see it. You really, really do. Tong was hyped during the game, eager to get back on the mound. Yeah. I mean, you saw it right away, right? When he let up that final hit before he got out of that 5th inning, he's saying, give me a new ball. I mean, he's not even thinking about Hefner coming out and talking to him. He's not thinking about coming out of the game. That's a competitor. That's somebody you want on the mound. every fifth day. And I think Tong will definitely bring that. We do have a super chat. Got to get to this. I'm so sorry. You and Ray are the most honest podcast. Thanks. Battlefield, thank you, man. Appreciate it. I really appreciate the support. You guys have been great. There's a lot of hate in the world. I think we all know that. It's just kind of what comes with the business. And we stay diligent. We love this Mets team, myself included, Ray included. We really put a lot of time into this, and I appreciate you guys coming back every single night, giving the support and love that you always do. We wouldn't do this without you. Again, I really wouldn't. So really appreciate all you guys at home spending your Friday night with us. Yep, the players, of course, they got to be better. They have to be better. Grease fire. Yeah, they're cooking with grease, man. They really are. Once we got to 2.5 games over the Reds after being a half, I figure wild card was a wrap. And I was more worried about the Mets just crashing than the Reds at 4 games over 500 at their best. But that's over. Goomba, you're right. I mean, you go back 2 weeks, you go back 3 weeks, a month. This I don't want to say the fan base, but that's all you see on X. They were upset. They thought this season was over, to the point where I had to tweet. I don't like to be the voice of reason, but sometimes I just say, like, all right, I got to tweet something because there's enough negative energy going the other way. I need to kind of speak how I feel on the positive side. I said this Mets team was a playoff team. They're going to the postseason. And a lot of people saying, Dan, you're crazy. No way. This team's cooked. The season's over. It's really tricky. And that's how long of a baseball season is. You have to stick with it through and through. So I think we're all doing that. I think we're all trying to, really hold it down as we get ready for September to be here. And the roster is going to expand. That's going to be another conversation. Acuna, Sproul. It's up in the air. It really is. But you can't count out the season ever. You can't do that. Not closing the gap with September schedule, not going to happen. Yeah, I agree. Truth be told, I agree. I don't think the Mets are going to win the division. As good as they play against the Phillies, as much as Philly doesn't scare me, I don't know. They have too much of a lead, and it would really be a serious crash and burn. But you do have 4 games remaining. Can't count out those games. I'm not counting out the division, but I'm leaning more towards just securing a wild card at this point. But again, long season, as we constantly preach. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. No, we don't, I assume, yeah. When there's a blowout, it's hard to assess what Tong can do. I think we'll see it in his next start. Dolo, that's a good point, right? You can kind of get masked by the offense just exploding and kind of covering, Tong walking a batter. He actually didn't walk back. Getting guys on with hits, better to say. Letting up a run. Those things you kind of sit back and say, all right, it's 12-1. Why do I really care what happens? In a 1-1 game, I think a lot of us would care what happens. So, Dolo, you're 100% spot on, as usual. Great showing from Tong and our offense. But MLB needs to get rid of these position players pitching. Eric, that's a good point. Because I don't think any of us like seeing position players pitch. We'd rather see, I don't even know what we'd rather see, pitchers hitting again than seeing position players hitting. But I get it, right? I don't know what MLB could do. Maybe they expand the amount of pitchers that can be on a staff as opposed to 13. Maybe you say 15, 16. It'd be tough to do, but I hear you. Maybe you have position players only throw, I don't want to say 1 batter minimum. That's been ruled out, but there's ideas. I definitely would entertain them. I just don't know what MLB could do to limit that, because honestly, in those instances, the only time a position player is pitching is in a blowout situation, and most of the time the game is already determined by that point. So it's tricky. I hear you. Maybe have like a bullpen catcher pitch who throws gas or something. It's stupid, but I really don't know. At the end of the day, I don't. So the Mets don't really have many of those guys that can pitch in an instant and actually be good pitchers. Like, it's interesting. It really is. So I think Luis Torrens was the last position player to pitch for the Mets, funny enough. But, Jets beat the Dolphins 19-9. Yeah, it felt like a football score tonight. It really did. And it reflective there as well. I mean, you don't get many of these games, these offensive explosions, but it's good to see. It really is good to see, Elliot. So we'll get ready for football season. Excited for the Giants. Love my big blue. Andrew Thomas, a little shaky for week 1. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the big news this week, not to deviate from baseball too much, but Micah Parsons going to the Giants. Kenny Clark, 2 firsts. Jerry Jones, I don't know what you're doing. I think a part of it is maybe he knows his days, not numbered in terms of living on this earth, but in terms of being the owner of the Giant of the Cowboys, excuse me. So maybe he's just trying not to pay Micah Parsons $40 million. Like, I get the reasons why, but it's interesting to think about. It really is. So good for the Giants, right? That's maybe 2 free wins in the win column. So that's really good to see that we don't have to face Micah, but I hear you on the Jets. Don't worry. Love gangrene as well. Nice new jerseys, by the way. Rivalry week. Those are pretty cool. Is what it is. Crimson Lindor and Pete. Crimson Lindor. Huh. I don't know. Pete gave Tong 2 more chances to get that 6th K to hit the 5.5 Ks. Oh, I assume you're talking about over-unders betting. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. There was some people seeing talk about that, and then also just people kind of taking the under for today's game, which clearly, didn't hit on a night like this. So it's funny to think about. Think we should sign Bueller? I'd consider taking a flyer. That's the best way I could put it. If I'm the Mets, I would take a flyer on Walker Bueller. I would seriously consider that because he could be a bullpen piece. I think most of us would, take him over Stanek, as bad as Bueller's been. And we know what Bueller can be when he's on the top of his game. He has a lot of miles on his arm, but he's pitched in big games. He is a big-time pitcher, and he's arguably an ace when he's at the top of his game. We've seen what he's done over the past few seasons, primarily with the Dodgers, right? So I would consider it. I don't think the Mets would do it, but a team's going to scoop him up. You'd be foolish to think that no team, especially a contender, say the Yankees. I think there's definitely something in play where maybe he reunites with the Dodgers again. Maybe he goes to San Diego. Maybe he comes to the Mets. I would definitely put it on the plate, but I don't know if the Mets are going to pull the trigger. I just know in the past they were thinking about Walker Bueller. So I don't know. Maybe think about him again if you're David Stearns. But there is always that pushback. It's Dan, you're clogging a young starter from being up here. And the only other young starter at this point would be Brandon Sproat, right? So if you move Holmes to the bullpen, you have a spot. If you DFA Stanek, you have a spot. Luckily, the elbow inflammation on the UCL with Garrett this week spoke to Mike Puma. Not as serious as we once thought, but Reed Garrett was feeling that pain for a while. So it is another spot, but I think there's maneuverability in terms of, this pitching for the Mets. I do think it's a possible, option, but I wouldn't entertain it too much. A lot of people understand that he hasn't been great this year, but the dual ability to pitch out of the pen and be a starter it's few and far between. So it's good to see. That was a joke, and Mendoza putting Torrens on the mound. Yeah, I hear you. I know you let this game get to 19-9. Going into that final 9th inning, nobody's going to want to see that, right? But you let up a 4 spot. You let up even that 1 run in the 8th. Those are runs that you're looking at and saying, maybe we could have got him back, and the Mets did with the 6th spot in the bottom of the 8th. But, yeah, I hear you. I really do. It shouldn't be those situations where Torrens is pitching, of all people. Tong looked good, too. Loving the kids coming up and showing their talent. Yes, Elliot, you love to see it. That is the bottom line. You love to see it. And we want to see unforced errors. Yeah, Kev, I hear you. Should the Mets take a flyer on Bueller and the Red Sox released him for the Open? Ray, I'm with you. I would consider it. I would do it, right? I'm not a GM, maybe someday, right? Because I do have a business degree, but I don't have any plans or aspirations to go into a front office in the future. And it's a tough job. These are decisions that you have to make because you're affecting the life of someone else, like either getting optioned or moved or having to uproot a family if they do get released. Like, these are tough decisions to make. And I would consider it, but I know a lot of people out there wouldn't consider it, and for good reason. I see the opposition of it. I believe he had a 12 ERA. His whip is like a 1.3 right now. There's reasons not to bring in Walker Bueller, but I'll always play devil's advocate and counter that and say there's a lot of good reasons to bring him in too, to take a flyer, keyword, because he's a free agent at the end of this season. 100% agree. Love to see it. Tong got himself brilliantly out of jams, except the ones where his teammates put him in. That's really it, right? Again, the errors. Like, it's tough. It really is. And the Mets have to be better with defense. That's really what it comes down to. A lot of sloppy play the past two nights, and can't win a World Series playing like that. Ray Rivera, I think so. Also, it comes down, he needs someone in his head. I'm just reading you guys' comments. I know Ray kind of sifts through these. I just kind of go through them and talk. Now, wear and tear development with complicated technique. Yeah, he has. I assume you're talking about Tong. You know, and Bueller too. You could say to an extent. I hear you. Tong looked great. Can't wait to say McLean again, then Tong again, then McLean again, and so on and so on. LGM. That's it, right? I mean, how often in the past 10 years have we sat here and said, I can't wait to see these guys go out and pitch consistently? McLean is on another level than Tong. I do feel more confident in the future about Nolan McLean, but I never know. I mean, there was talks of McLean being a bullpen arm, right? And then you see him now, what he can do as a starting pitcher. Something to think about. I mean, earlier this week, Stearns was talking, and he was saying, Tong or Sproat, it was the day they called up Tong. One of those guys could be moved to the pen. And maybe it is a Sproat someday. Maybe it's a Tong or a McLean. But I'd say go more with the older guys, move them to the pen first, and let these kids thrive, right? Have a rotation again of 5 young studs under team control, flamethrowers. The big 5, as we used to call them, of course. And I'll say it one more time. We all know the names: Harvey, Syndergaard, Matz, Wheeler, and DeGrom. They only pitch once together. I understand. It's not Generation K either. Like, I understand that too. But you do want to see consistency between, your starters and have them under team control for a while. And I think that's very important, especially this day and age. McLean would throw a no-no. Will throw a no-no, maybe a perfect game for the Mets at some point. It's coming. His stuff is so filthy. It's ridiculous. Been watching his highlights all week. Can't wait for his next game. How am I going to push back on that, Goomba? I really can't. You saw 8 innings. You saw scoreless 8 innings from Nolan McLean. It's great. It really is. And also Soto and Lindor. Soto and Nimmo coming up gunning in that final 8th inning to keep that a scoreless game. I mean, these guys are playing for each other. You love to see it. Mashing home runs. You see the pitchers doing their thing. And it really comes back to the youth. You have the nice blend now. You have the youth pitchers. You have the veterans on the field. This is a pretty damn good team. And we've been saying that most of the season. We've been consistent about that. And sky's the limit. Keith is old school. He always got his foot in front of the ball. Yeah, I didn't get to see Keith. I've seen highlights. He was a defensive wizard, no doubt about it. But you're right. He would get in front. And I know it's tough when the exit velocities on some of these bats, 110, it's tough to get in front of these baseballs. We saw the other night too, Alec Bohm, some of these balls just take random bounces. But even Brett Beatty, the ball ate him up the other night. He tried to go backhand up the middle. That's going to cost you. But then you saw Brett Beatty bounce right back and take it right in the chest. So, I think they were learning on the fly a lot of these times, but I hear you, especially at first base. Pete has to be getting in front of those baseballs, especially if he wants a big contract in the offseason. That's going to be one of the number one headlines all throughout the Mets. It'll certainly be from Metcalf's perspective, I'll tell you that. I mean, what is Pete Alonso going to get this offseason? And a lot of that's going to be attributed, of course, to his offense. That's number one. But his defense is going to be a really big part of that equation. And you can make the case his defense, again, has improved. I think he feels more confident throwing the ball, whether it be to first base or second on a turn. But that doesn't make you money, per se, right? I mean, in the long run. We do have someone checking in. This is very special. I do have Ray. I want to try to bring you up. I'm not really. Whenever you're ready, we'll talk to you. But any concerns about the sloppy defense past 2 games? I am concerned. They've given away runs to an extent, but I don't think it's going to be something that costs them a playoff position. No, I'm not concerned to that level. Not just yet, but it has been a concern, no doubt. I don't know why they stopped teaching getting in front of the ball. Did they tell football players to only use their hands and not on the body too? Let's go, Ray. Check it.
What is up, fam?
Yes.
Wow.
Talk, brother. How
Wow.
was the game?
What an atmosphere. I will tell you this. That place was totally sold out. One of the loudest games I've heard in a long time, and it had a tiny bit at least to start it. That playoff type nervousness. I don't want to say atmosphere, but the nervousness from the fans were there. I was right behind home plate the entire game. And when Jonah Tong emerged from the bullpen initially to come out, the place erupted as if it was a playoff game. You saw him coming out, the giant smile. We actually posted that video over on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. If you guys want to check out the shorts, it's kind of like a little exclusive because it wasn't on television, and you just felt the energy in the air. It was something different. And whether or not it's because we're kind of in that put up or shut up moment. We're chasing the Phillies. We're trying to break away from the Reds. Dare I say, catch the Padres or even the Cubs to try to get a home playoff series. You felt it. It's almost like you're hoping he's the real deal and the relief. Something that I spoke to a ton of Mets fans, and shout out to everybody who came and spoke to me throughout the game. It's a little surreal when you have so many people coming up to you. But a lot of times when I'm talking to these fans, they feel like us. Manaea and Senga, right now, there is on a scale of 1 to 10, there's a 2% trust right there. And they've earned that. We've given them full trust coming into this year. And in the second half, they both have been bad. And something that I've talked to about with a lot of Mets fans, potentially sending Manaea to the pen because he seems to get beat around in the fourth and fifth innings, second time through the order. Maybe he could be more effective that way. But it's like, also when you're watching Jonah Tong, you could tell, Dan, look, I like the guy, but he needs just a little more refinement. His command lacked a little bit here or there. I also noticed in the fifth inning, his fastball, 93, 94, not the 96, 97 we came accustomed to while he was down in AA, in AAA. But, I don't know what that's all about. He looked like he was feeling himself. You could tell he was kind of bored. I had pretty good eyes on him. When the Mets have these 25 plus minute innings, he's literally sitting there with his hand like he was itching to get out of the dugout. And obviously he's a young kid. It's funny because when you look at him, it's like, hey, Sonny, get back in, go back to home period. It's, he looks like he's in high school, which is kind of funny. You don't see that a ton throughout these days. And another thing, you could see the difference between him and McLean. And I'm not saying he can't be on McLean's level eventually, but McLean's older. He's more refined. He's more mature in his approach. I could tell Tong's going to be like more emotional when it comes to it, which is fine. You could have emotion. Trevor Bauer had a great career before he, screwed that whole thing up because he ran on emotions, which is fine. But in the biggest situations, a guy like McLean, who doesn't get too high or too low, maybe at the end he might let out a roar in the sixth inning, but you could tell Tong was kind of wearing his emotions a little more, but that's going to come with seasoning. I'm not sold that he's going to be some superstar pitcher yet. I think it's there. The potential's definitely there. The Vulcan change, you're watching it. Even from in the stadium where I'm sitting, you could see the movement. Like it's legit. It plays like a splitter. Let's just be real. When you're throwing a 15-inch breaking ball with that miles an hour different, maybe not a splitter, but a fork ball like Senga, it takes 7 or 8 miles an hour, dare I say 10 miles an hour off of it, and it dives down. What I would love to see him refine just a little bit more, that slider. If he could get a little more horizontalness to that slider, I think that 3-pitch mix right there on top of his curveball will make him even a more deadly type pitcher. But it was interesting to see today a very unique delivery in person. A lot of people say Lincecum, but also I see a lot of differences as well. It's very easy. I'm watching MLB Network on my phone. They're all comparing him to Lincecum because of the delivery. But he does have things that he does do differently. And I also think he's built different than Lincecum. A lot of people are worried about his landing spot and how he lands. I think over time that could be adjusted. Let's not forget the reason why the Giants did not touch Lincecum is because he was dominant right out the gate. And when a guy comes out throwing to a 2 ERA, it's very difficult to turn around and just start changing his mechanics. And I'm not saying maybe Tong does do that, but I feel like he's a little bit behind McLean, which is fine. And I think he has the ability to be above everybody else on this staff, which is great to see. But I expect that out of a 22-year-old. But I am not so sure that he may not get a start in this playoff rotation. It's all going to depend what happens with Senga and Manaea. Because as I've told you 100 times, Dan, I don't trust them at all. They've been bad for a few months now, and we're coming into crunch time. The playoffs are literally a month away. So they have maybe 3 starts, maybe 4 to really try to solidify their role. But I feel like we've been saying this for 2 months. But overall, great night. And I will say this. Pete Alonso would have had another home run. The wind after the 3rd inning was blowing in towards home plate like viciously. You could hit it out to right. But I was talking to all the people around me. There's nobody that's hitting this ball out to left field unless you're absolutely crushing it. The wind picked up towards the end of the game. Alonso, that would have been a home run, I'm pretty sure, in like every park. But another thing, too, can we put to bed this Juan Solo BS? Comes up, big spot, early on, hits the home run, guys are on base, Nimmo hits the 2 home runs. It was like, and you're facing a pretty damn good pitcher to start. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting there. I look at my watch. It's 8:08, and we're just getting into like the 2nd inning. That was the longest game I've ever been to in my life, but very enjoyable, positive vibes throughout the park. And I'll tell you another thing, too. It wasn't shown on TV. When Hell's Bells came on for Ryan Helsley, the entire stadium erupted in a dark boo, and he felt it. And again, he looked horrible. Let's just be real. This guy is not built for New York. And, we got to hold our general manager accountable. That will happen after this season. But so far, the moves that David Stearns has made, Tyler Rogers has been okay. I'll give him that. But Mullins, he's not even playing. Like, the whole point was to bring him here because he's supposed to be Tyron Taylor's replacement. The guy can't play. And then you have Ryan Helsley, who's been an utter meltdown machine. Every time he comes in, it's never clean. You know what I feel like, Dan? This is year 2 of Edwin Diaz. The Edwin Diaz who couldn't get an out, which was almost ran out of town, who he had to make the adjustment to New York, the adjustment to the ball as MLB was screwing around with the ball. But I never seen a guy get hit so hard that throws 100+ miles an hour, because let's be real, everyone knows he can't get his secondary pitches over. That's how I look at that. And also another thing, one last thing. I know I'm going on a kind of a tangent here.
Go ahead.
How about let's stop saying Jonah Tong goes 5 and, he gives up 4 and he went 5 and gave up 1 earned run. I don't like saying 4 because let's be real. Lindor drops the double play, inning over. Pete Alonso has the hard ground ball go right through his glove, inning over. So it wasn't 4. There's a good chance Tong goes 6 or 6+ if these guys don't do this. I mean, and it's almost like contagious with our hitting. If Lindor doesn't make the error, Pete doesn't make the error. Nimmo does the slide and drops the ball in left field that hits him. Yeah, you want to say Mark Vientos shouldn't be over there? I get that perspective, but it's also on Nimmo to scream, I got it, I got it, I got it, which on the replay, I'm not totally sure he was doing. And another thing, and something that's going by everybody, when Lindor makes that error, Pete makes that error, Torrens had a pass ball right after that. that it just compiles. I never seen a team that's so, maybe it's so cohesiveness. If one guy doesn't hit a home run, if we're all not hitting home runs, no one's hitting home runs. If we're all not hitting, nobody's hitting. If someone's making an error, we're all making an error. If one pitcher's doing bad and can't pitch, the relief pitchers get lit up too. I've never seen anything like it, Dan. Like, it's never just one error in a game. You look up, there's 3 errors when it should be 4. You look up, there's 3 pass balls when there should be 1. You look up, there's 6 home runs when we never just hit 1 or 2 and win by 1 or 2 runs. When's the last time we won a 1-run game with Diaz closing it? It feels like forever.
Subway Series. July 4th.
It's crazy. I never seen anything like it. Everything happens in bunches with this team, which could be good, but in the playoffs, it's going to be a detriment. But overall, it was a good night. I like Jonah Tong's fiery. He's got the vibes to him. And this team was energized behind him, putting up the big, the 5 spot right off the rip. I'm sure it calmed him down, but maybe a little too much. I'm not saying he lost focus, but these guys rely on adrenaline. And when you're out there and it's a freaking 12-0 game, it's probably hard to stay on top of that,
Yeah. And great seats tonight, Ray, too. I mean, you were right there down on the action, got some great stuff. And you're right. I mean, Stearns can't keep getting a pass. He has not signed one guy who has made a big impact for this team this year. Rogers, sure, but he hasn't really had a big impact. Siri's nowhere to be seen. Winker's nowhere to be seen. Haven't seen Nick Madrigal, right? And then all the pitchers.
Oh, he stinks too. So does Jose Siri.
Right.
Let's be real.
But, I mean, it's just time and time again. Like, Stearns, you're a great GM. I think we all respect you, but you've had a really bad year, and we can say that objectively here on Metcalf. Want to get to some of these comments. That was awesome. The 0 walks. Member Joey checking in. Love to see it. Love the 0 walks. That's obviously very important in a game like this. Bill checking in. Funny that now we have Tong over the top and Rogers the submariner. Yeah, right? It's like the best.
And Mania the side armor.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's good to see. So you just want to keep it going. For sure. Soft line flies from guys throwing the bag and the ball. Nothing hard at all night. Goomba says, yeah, no, I hear you. Sprout next, Crimson says, yeah. How do you feel about that, Ray? You think Sprout's coming up here, and what role will he be in? Because there's not enough.
I think he's going to come up here, and I think he's going to come in a late inning bullpen role. That's what I think that they're searching for. There's no way Stanek makes this roster. I mean, Brazabon, they keep setting up and down. You think that he comes in, he has a couple solid outings, and who knows what's going to happen with Reed Garrett. There's a lot of questions when it comes to this bullpen, so I could absolutely see him coming up here and playing a significant role in the bullpen.
Makes a lot of sense. Michael checking in. Joe Ross, the guy, did I say Dylan Ross? But yeah, Dylan Ross could be a definitely interesting pick. I'm not giving up on Sprout. Kev says, I think Tong is only pitching one more time. Press said Mendoza mentioned one more game for Jonah Tong. Okay. Well, I agree with Ray. The ceiling might not be as high currently as it is in Nolan McLean, but he's also not as refined, not as old, and doesn't have the stuff as Nolan McLean.
I'll tell you this, Dan.
Yeah.
Look, I know we don't want to go beyond this year, and I totally understand that. But this team could be one elite pitcher away from having a crazy rotation next year. And one thing I want to emphasize, Christian Scott is the unforgotten man. Does anybody remember last year how hyped we were for him coming up? Not saying he's going to be a 1 or a 2, but if he's a solid 3 and you have McLean, Peterson, and dare I say a Valdez or somebody of that nature, look what the Dodgers did. You have a bunch of young guys. You use the Blake Snells, all these guys. one elite pitcher with the hitting that we have, and dare I say the hitting we have coming through the minors. As shout out to Carson Bench today, hits his first AAA home run today. Jet Williams had a home run today, his second. Ryan Clifford had a couple, I believe, yesterday. I mean, these guys are raking in AAA, and I know we've seen a lot of guys do it, but it's good to see how, like, the future is there for us, where maybe, if Montas is out all of next year, I'm sure insurance covers a big portion of that contract. Maybe not a ton, maybe 10, 11, 12 million, whatever it is. If it's 70 or 80%, whatever it is, I'm not sure. I'm not one of those experts, but the Mets are going to have money coming off the books. And I wouldn't look. I know Stearns has stayed away from giving guys in their 30s big contracts, and he's pretty much been right, because you look at Burns, he got injured, but Max Fried's having a pretty damn good year from the Yankees. Imagine having a guy of his caliber on this team to lead this staff, where now all of a sudden it's, Valdez, Peterson, hopefully Manaea with a whole offseason comes back, Stanga, and then you let these guys battle it out, and whoever doesn't make it, you send them down to AAA, because you're going to need them eventually. How many pitchers have we gone through every single year? Canning, pitch, done. Senga, pitch, out for 2 months. Manaea didn't pitch the first 3 months. I mean, it's every single year we get stuff like this. So, and Frankie Montas pitched, now he's done for the whole year. So you got to go 8 or 9 deep. And if I'm looking at my bullpen my minors next year, and dare I say a Jonah Tong and Brandon Sproat are the first guys to come up, is it really that bad? I don't think anybody's guaranteed a spot next year. I just don't. I simply don't.
Right. Kev checking in with our luck. Sproat could turn into Wheeler if we trade him. And that goes back to the point before, right? We've seen the highs of Brandon Sproat. He was the number one prospect. He was the highly touted guy in the system. And now we're kind of seeing the downturn. So you want to see the full cycle of Brandon Sproat. Now, I don't want to trade him prematurely. I want to see him at the big leagues before we make that assumption. But you never know. You really never know. This is funny. Michael S. Lee checking in. Ray, how was the 7 train after the game? I know the answer to that. You did not take the 7 train.
No, I just drove home. Oh my gosh, what an absolute nightmare. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I didn't stay the whole time. Once I seen the position players come in, I got the hell out of there. And the highways were closed. It just took me well over an hour to get home. Very long day. I left my house at 4 o'clock, and I'm walking in now. And I was actually contemplating going to the game tomorrow again.
I'll be there.
Well, we'll see, though, because my Longhorns are going to kick the crap out of Ohio State. So I don't know. I might have to stay home for that.
Horns up. Yeah, that's it's interesting. You had firework night. You had the U.S. Open. It was a lot of
that's what it was, man. The traffic to get into the stadium, I never experienced anything like that because of the U.S. Open.
It's crazy. A lot of people love tennis. It's crazy. Klub checking in, one of our members. Great win today. How loud were the boos for Helsley, as you mentioned?
I plead the fifth. I'm not going to say whether I joined them or not. That guy sucks, and it was very loud.
Yeah,
it was very loud.
It's crazy.
And we were all cracking up, though. It was in jest because we were kicking the hell out of Miami. So it was a close game. I think, and I'll tell you this too, watching him come out of the pen, he's got the deer in the headlights, if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, it's bad. He's not fit for New York. I think I fully agree with you on that. Truthfully, I do. Elliot, we'll get to a couple more guys. We'll get out of here. Ellie, I think they're just talking to each other. Michael, Marte has a 797 OPS. Insane. Yeah, he's been pretty good. The interesting Soto comments too this past week told Mike Puma that he's the de facto, talking about Marte from Soto's perspective, de facto captain of the team. So
which makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. I think
they're also best buds.
Yes, which helps, obviously. I do think it's
he'll be gone after this year.
Subliminal at Lindor. I wouldn't be so, I don't know, Ray. I hear you, but
if he's going to play, someone else is going to. If we know anything about David Stearns, he's going to try to get younger. You're going to rely on a Starling Marte, a guy who is, let's be real, he's been healthy for the majority of the season, but he's one of those guys, he is always hurt. And let's be real, they don't want him playing the outfield anymore. I don't know how many DHs you could have on this team. There's going to be, I could see depending on the results of this year, there could be mega changes coming. We don't know what's going to happen with McNeil potentially being traded. Alonso. I
Yep.
mean, is Brett Beatty, are they trusting him to be the full-time third baseman, or are they thinking he's just having a hot August? Like, Stearns is going to have a lot of decisions to make, but we'll worry about that in the offseason.
Right. And still put him in at second base, which I don't hate at the end of the day. I just don't love it at the end of the day. I do think he is that third baseman, as we've talked about, many times, but we'll see. And I think a lot of it too, I see Dolo's comment here. If Soto wants Marte back, there's a good chance he might be. So we'll see.
Probably tell Marte to play for $1 million.
Right. Yeah, that's the world we live in. The players kind of control some of these owners. So it's, but
you're telling me you couldn't see Pittsburgh saying, "Oh, come back, one last hurrah. We'll pay you $6 million. We'll do a retirement tour. We'll sell tickets. People are going to see him retire." And I don't see the Mets paying. Remember, the Mets are going to be paying 110%. So Pittsburgh offers him 1 year, $8 million. I don't see Steve Cohen paying him almost $20 million next year. There's no way in hell.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, Frankie Montas, because we're over the cap and he's one of the guys we brought in over the cap, he's going to be making $40 million next year. It's crazy.
It's a lot. That's why it's important to get under this tax. It really is. I wanted David Robertson since he handles New York pressure, Kev says. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these pitchers really
got paid, though.
Yeah, can't seem to handle it. I mean, whether it's Helsley, you can even say Soto here and there. I like Soto a lot, but he's been a little rough too. Speaking of Greg Soto, Vincent checking in. Greg Soto is no better. That's why this team is in trouble, because those relievers we traded for or big pieces, they're not big pieces in the playoffs.
I think Soto's been fine for us.
Yeah, he's been decent. He hasn't been this unbelievable arm, but he's been solid enough to get by, which is good. And a solid lefty in the absence of Minter. So
he's only, how many bad outings has he had for us?
One or two. I mean, the other night he let up, I think it was a run or two, but nothing too notable. I agree with you on that.
Now I'm interested in seeing. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. He's given up. You want to talk about Gregory Soto? Here we go. Gregory Soto, the month of August since we had him, 10 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. He's got a 1.8 ERA with 10 strikeouts. The guy's been unbelievable. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So out of 11 appearances, he's given up 2 runs in 1 appearance. 10 scoreless outings outside of that. What more do you want from a guy? That's how I look at that.
I hear you. Couple more. Michael Lee checking in with a little humor. Can we get Daniel Murphy to suit up? Well, maybe for the alumni game. No, definitely I wish. But I think get him in the booth someday. He'd be a great addition.
Yeah, once, I don't mind him.
Yeah, Keith Hernandez or someone moves on. Sam, this is where you're wrong. Did Stearns sign Soto and Alonso? You're half right, half wrong. Let me tell you why. He signed Alonso. He did, get the deal and waited out the market and the whole thing. Stearns had nothing to do with Soto. That was a blank check from Steve Cohen. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That's just the reality. He had very little to do with that signing. Final comment of the night. I want to get your opinion on this, Ray. We talked about it before. We'll go to our great member here, Klub. Bring in Walker Buehler. Are you taking a day off, Ray, or are you signing?
If I could ship Stanek out of here, I mean, anything's better than that. I was screaming for Stanek at the end of the game. We were all cracking up. Helsley came in. I'm like, bring me Stanek. They're like, get this guy out of here. We were all dying laughing. But you want to tell me it's for the rest of the season? I would check in on it if he's willing to play be a bullpen guy. But I'm not bringing him in for a starter. He was terrible this year.
Yeah.
Another look, Met fan saying Sleepy Stearns, he sucks. He doesn't know what he's doing because he didn't want to bring in Walker Buehler for $20 million. How's that working out?
Yeah. Recency bias. Soto's been off last 2 appearances. Well, I get it. Daniel Murphy as a hitting coach. Yeah, we'll see.
Chavez ain't going anywhere.
And Geraldo wrapping us up the best way possible. LFGM, that's all we have for you here on Metcast tonight. Ray checking in, grinding, coming back from the game. Make sure to go check out Metcast.
Doing 150 down the hot. No, I'm just kidding.
I still can't believe you get back to where you live in the time that you do. I mean, that is just from Citi Field. I'd probably still be on the Northern State by now, but that's just me.
Well, that's why I don't take the Northern State. Rule number 1.
That's all we have for you guys tonight. Thank you for being loyal. We stuck with you guys about an hour and a half. We love it, and we love to, it was a great live for sure. And we'll be back. I'll be at the game tomorrow with my family. Ray, I'd love to introduce you to my parents if you're going. If not, I'll get a Lindor bobblehead. We'll auction that off, give it away.
Hey, get me one. Send me one my way. I have a few. I will say this. I didn't know this. For anybody who doesn't know, the Mets do a grab bag thing at Citi Field, which I did not know. $45, you get a random item. Could be a game used something, which probably never is. So as I'm walking out, I said, why not? So I do it. I won a Dwight Gooden plaque. It's got his retirement number with dirt from Citi Field inside the plaque. It's pretty cool. Probably not worth $45, but it's something different. I tried out, so I'm gonna have that in the background eventually. Something else to add. But I didn't know that. Dan, remember we walk in, you walk up the stairs, the elevator to your right, the memorabilia store, and there's always that big line wrapping around. Those are people buying the grab bag. The grab bag's $45. And some people just win dirt.
It's just random stuff in it. That's
yeah.
tough. That's tough that they kind of scam.
Well, you could get autograph. I think you get autographed jerseys, balls, but I'm sure there's very few of those.
Yeah, I might look into that tomorrow. I'm going to spend enough money on food because my parents already said, hey, we'll take you to the game. We're not paying for your food. So, Citi Field, man, I don't know if you got anything tonight, Ray, but it costs you an arm and a leg.
Pat the frita steak.
Hey, yes, sir. Guys, thank you for another great live. We'll be back in some capacity tomorrow. Make sure to follow us on all socials. Drop a like and a sub. It helps us out very greatly on the platform. Ray, you know what I'm about to say. Let's
go
Mets. Peace, everybody.